And we'll add seam allowance. This is your time to make any more corrections that you see. If it doesn't look continuous, let's work on really blending that line nicely. It looks really nice for the front there. Let's work on the back. Looks great. Now let's go ahead and put our seam allowance on this. 3/8 of an inch in the under seam of the sleeve. And down here at the hem, let's do a matching 3/4 of an inch. Now we get to put seam allowance in our sleeve cap. So let's line it up with 3/8 of an inch from the edge in and round our ruler around and make short little lines because it's curved. Then we're going to come back and blend everything. Okay, let's blend that. We have to flip the ruler several times to get the shape. Even with the seam allowance. Okay, there's our front. Blend a little bit here on the under seam of the sleeve. Now we're going to flip over and do the back. We don't need to do this part because we're going to cut it from the front and have this part matching. But what we do need to do is the cap, but we don't need to do the under seam of the sleeve or the hem. So let's just work on the cap, adding our short lines 3/8 of an inch away from the style line that we have created. Rotate that around. This is going to be a great basic top for me to make a variety of things, including a dress, because all I need to do is put a skirt on the bottom of the pattern. Let's round out that cap. Okay, and I'm not going to even put an end right there or draw that in like I was mentioning. So most sleeves are symmetrical. And we'll go ahead and cut this out in a second. We checked the measurement of the sleeve cap to the armhole. It didn't have any ease, but I decided to give it a little bit extra. You don't need to. That's just me being fussy. The knit can be matching with no ease, or it can have a little bit of ease. So here's the sleeve. Let's just see how long it is. Looks like maybe about 16 and a quarter, something like that. Okay, it does have a little tab, but that's not a detail that I need at all. It's cute, but I don't know, it's sort of irritating. And also, too, let's go ahead and see what this opening is, even though I feel like it's a little bit large. So this was about 5 and a quarter. Okay, I still have those pins in there, just in case I needed them. Let's look before we cut. That was 5 and a quarter, and when I measure it, it is 4 3/4. Oh, good. It's narrower already. Awesome. So I'm going to keep it at 4 3/4 because I would have taken that much out, or even a little bit more. I might even take, for future reference, I might even take off another 1/2 inch, like that, and have it taper a bit more. Someone else would go like that. But I'm going to keep it right now because at 4 3/4 because I measured it 5 1/4, so this is fine. And then let's go ahead and check the length. We measured that at 16 to 16 1/4. Here's our hemline, and we're at about 16 1/2, and that's fine. I'll leave it an extra 1/4 inch longer. We could take off a 1/4 inch if we wanted to, but I like this sleeve a little bit longer and narrower, so I'm fine with that. Now we're going to go ahead and do the cutting of the sleeve and make the front different than the back. First, we're going to go ahead and cut our hem. Let's cut through here. Okay. And fold that back. And if you want to get a little closer to your pattern, you can just trim off excess. Now we have a much smaller pattern to work with. A little bit easier to handle. Let's go ahead and cut the underseam of the sleeve. And now let's start cutting the front sleeve cap. And then we're going to continue on with the back. So I'm going to cut the front. cutting out our back. Perfect. I'm going to cross my corner. On my back. So we know all the seam allowance is there, and on the underseam. And now we have the front, we have the back, we added a little bit more. We want to put a notch right here at the top. So we're going to go ahead and notch at the top. And often you will find a notch 1/4 of an inch forward of that grain line. We're also going to add some notches on the sleeve cap. On the front, we're going to go up 2.5 inches and make a mark. Mark this perpendicular and make a little U so we can see it. And then here on the back, we're going to go up the same 2.5 inches. Make a little mark. Go up perpendicular and then go up another 1/2 inch. Go ahead and make some little U's around that. So 1 notch means front or top, and 2 notches quite often just means the back. So we've got our front and our back. Let's go ahead and label this. This is our sleeve. This is a cut to self. And then of course you're going to have the date. You're going to have your name. You can have a style number if you start a company. And then you also want to write on here that this was a knit jersey. Okay, there's our sleeve. We can also notch our hem. So these were now 9 inches. So now the last thing that we would need to make for this is to make a neckline band. I don't want the Henley placket, and I don't want that tab necessarily on the sleeve. I want to make a completely different style. So my front neckline, this was 9 1/4. And then times 2, because I just measured half of it, I'm at 19 1/2. Let's go ahead and measure what our back neckline is. And if you can't see where it is because you don't have the seam allowance drawn in, which is fine, we're not drawing all of our seam allowance in, you can just give a couple little marks there, then it's easier for you to measure. Putting that ruler on edge, and that is about 4 1/8. I'm writing it down so I don't have to measure it again. And this is our back neckline, but times 2 because we're only measuring half, so I'd really be at 8 1/4. So we have taken some measurements. I can cut the back out anytime I want to, but I think I'll put that off. But what I can do is take a little bit of paper off to the side here, which I don't need, and use it to make a neckline. Let's see if it's long enough. If not, we'll get some other paper, or we'll tape it. So the neckline piece in here is woven, and it's not my favorite. I'm going to go ahead and change this to knit. And it's just 1/2 inch wide. It's not 3/4. just a 1/2 inch. So I can create the neckline band, draw myself a nice long straight line on the paper that I just cut off. And this is a 1/2 inch wide. Plus the 3/8 inch neckline, seam allowance. But when I think about that, 3/8 inch is really small, and so is a 1/2 inch, but they're very similar. So I think I'm just going to give this one more 1/8 inch and make sure that this covers the 3/8 inch in seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to give it just an extra 1/8 inch, so I'm going to go to 5/8. And while I'm already here, I'm going to add on my 3/8 inch seam allowance. So if I wonder, hey, what did I do with that extra line? I've already confirmed it. I have 3/8 in this neckline band. I've made this 5/8. Let's continue those measurements down the line. 5/8. And 3/8. Now I've just done this on one side of the paper and here is blank because I can take this and fold it just like I did with the front and back shirt, and by folding it with an empty space over here and lots of extra paper to compensate, I have now duplicated it on the other side once I cut this together. We're doing our nice light crease down the neckline band. There we go. That looks good. And I don't know how long we need the whole neckline yet. Let's take our